My sister has a 1.5-year-old son. Ever since he was born, she's tried to get my 14-year-old daughter to babysit as she wants them to be close, even though they're so far apart in age. My daughter has declined as she doesn't want the responsibility of someone else's kid, especially if something were to go wrong. My sister doesn't get it despite multiple people, myself and my daughter included, telling her. Yesterday we were at our parents' house for a BBQ. It was mostly adults with a few children varying in ages, but my nephew was the youngest. All throughout the BBQ, my sister kept trying to get my daughter to hold him or feed him, which my daughter declined. At one point, I went in the house to help my aunt and mom with drinks and sides. 15 minutes later, I hear my sister shrieking. I rush outside and she's holding her baby, whose face is bleeding. Her husband is nearby, trying to take the baby to administer first aid. My sister is shrieking at my daughter to put her damn phone down and you're in a lot of trouble. My daughter looks terrified. Finally, brother-in-law takes the baby and goes to tend to him. I get both sides. My sister went inside to pee, asking my daughter to watch her son. My daughter said no, ask your husband. My sister says she told her to just help out, and it won't kill you. My daughter flat out told her no, and my sister left knowing daughter was looking at her phone. The yard was filled with adults, all of whom they were keeping an eye on the little one, but at some point they lost track. My parents have concrete steps leading to their backyard. Somehow, nephew tried to walk up them, tripped and scratched his face. He was fine in the end, just a few scrapes. My sister kept demanding I take my daughter's phone and asked what I do to punish her. I said nothing because she said she wasn't watching her cousin, and there were half a dozen adults who should have been watching him, specifically his father. Brother-in-law even admits that it's on him and he screwed up, but my sister kept blaming my daughter. We left right then and I told my daughter several times in front of the family and alone that it's not her fault. My sister is still mad at me, and my mom says I should have daughter apologize. I said no, she did nothing wrong. My mom says that it wouldn't have killed my daughter to watch him for 2 seconds. Am I being an idiot? Not the idiot, the child's father was right there. He can look after the child. Your daughter said no, your sister chose to ignore her, it's your sister's fault. I love that the dad, sister's husband, is like nah, it was even though it seemed like the mom, sister, didn't even tell him. Either way, it's definitely not your daughter's fault. Not the idiot. And this seems like some sexiest gender norms bullshit, if you ask me. Not the idiot. And good for you for standing up for your daughter. Really happy that your nephew is okay. It really sounds like sister-in-law was trying to force your daughter into doing something she was uncomfortable with. Daughter had already repeatedly said no. One of her reasons being what if something bad happens? And guess what, she was proved right. No, it would not have killed her to keep an eye out, but it was also not her responsibility. It sounds to me like sister-in-law is hoping OP's daughter takes a liking to the toddler, and that's why she keeps trying to get her to hold or feed him. Seems like sister-in-law hopes can get free babysitting for date nights or something. Since that isn't working, she's resorting to guilt trips and boundary pushing. OP's daughter said no. Sister-in-law is trying to negate her refusal and make her responsible anyways. If OP or their daughter apologize now, sister-in-law will probably keep pushing. I got pushed into a lot of babysitting as a teen and preteen. My parents would make me, even when I didn't want to, but they did insist I was paid for it. I did have a few relatives try something like that, trying to get me to bond with the kid so they could invite me over to play with the baby when they really meant free babysitting. My parents had my back on that much, at least. OP, don't back down, it's a big not the idiot from me. Bingo. I think it's a combination of 3 things. 1. Like you said, sis is trying to force a bond in the hope she can wheedle some babysitting out of OP's daughter. 2. Gender bias. Sometimes people just assume all women love babies and toddlers and feel outraged when someone bucks those assumptions. OP's daughter doesn't get all gushy over babies and that bothers her sister. 3. Parental bias. Every child is the apple of their parents' eye. Ugly babies are beautiful to their moms and dads, even if they look like a sunburned Winston Churchill to everyone else. So even if OP's daughter doesn't get gushy over babies and the sister knows this, she's nonetheless offended that the girl isn't getting gushy over her particular baby. Not the idiot big time. Even the kid's dad said it was his fault. OP's sister is just big mad over some combination of 1-3 above. I'm pretty sure there's a control element as well. Sister is mad that OP's daughter doesn't immediately bend over and do exactly as she's asked, and is trying to browbeat her into it. Not the idiot. Your daughter has been very clear that she doesn't want to babysit. I think it's awesome that you're backing her up and advocating for her. Your sister is a huge asshole for not taking no for an answer. OP should tell her sister and mother that she is actually rewarding her daughter for being mature enough to know she does not want the responsibility of watching someone else's child, and that she was able to clearly state she was not accepting the responsibility. I love this. I hope you don't mind, but I'd like to add to it. OP, let them know that you're rewarding her for successfully voicing her personal boundaries, despite being harassed by multiple adults. Tell them how proud you are that she was able to give such a firm no, especially given how much young women can be pressured to do as they are told. Let them know you taught her to be strong in character, and that you couldn't be happier with her resolve. By the way, OP, I love the way you are respecting your daughter's choices here. Frankly, I don't know if I'm being an idiot. Family seems to think I am, so just want to know what others here think. My sister, 25 female, was going to meet her dad, not my dad by the way, for the first time in almost 18-19 years, and she was really nervous. She asked me to go with her for support. He was staying at some hotel about 30 minutes away, and the whole ride over there, my sister had my phone to give me directions. My wife was calling me because she'd gone into labor. Then my mother-in-law was calling me too. My sister put my phone on Do Not Disturb without me knowing and erased the notifications. I didn't even realize it until after we were leaving from having lunch with him an hour and a half later that she'd been calling me. All my sister told me was I had a missed call, more like dozens. When I found out, I was yelling at her the whole ride to the hospital. She apologized many times. Her only excuse was this was a big emotional moment for her meeting her dad, and she was scared, doing it alone knowing how her anxiety is. This was the only time they'd have to see each, since he was leaving in a few days and wouldn't be back for months. I really couldn't believe it. By the time we got there, my daughter had already been born a half hour. Don't get me wrong, I was so happy to know my daughter and wife were okay, but I was also devastated to have missed the birth of my first child. Couldn't look at my sister. All I told her was to get an Uber to take her home, because I didn't want her near me right now. My daughter is almost 4 weeks old and almost everyone, vaccinated, has come to see her. Last weekend my parents came over with my sister in the car, but I said I don't want her in my home right now. They got mad and left early. I keep hearing it from my family that I'm being completely unfair, treating my sister like an outcast by not letting her in my home. But I'm just still angry at her right now and don't think I have it in me to be in her presence. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, she knew exactly what she was doing. She made you miss something once in a lifetime, and I can't imagine how important that must have been for you. And the fact she did it to go see her deadbeat father. That's tragic and ironic. And your parents can't even see it your way a little, it seems. You have every right to be furious. Her defense was she thought my wife would have been in labor for hours, or at least hoped she would long enough for us to do both. I'm so furious. And it never occurred to her that you would want to be with your wife during labor? She's just trying to make excuses for her awful behavior. I think OP should ask his family how he'd be supposed to feel if something had gone wrong and he was sat at lunch somewhere. Thank goodness that it sounds like the birth was quick and straightforward, but it could so easily not have happened like that. It sounds like the family need to stop and take a moment to actually think through the gravity of what happened before demanding that OP just move on because family. Also ask his mom how she would have felt being in labor, knowing her husband was driving and not being able to get a hold of him for hours despite usually being able to. I am sure his wife was going through a lot of emotions on top of all birth-related things. Not the idiot. You know what else is a big emotional moment? The birth of your child. She didn't have the right to prioritize meeting her dad over you being present for a huge moment in your life. You can choose how you respond to that, they don't get to manage how you feel. A moment that OP could only go through one time. Sister's dad wouldn't be back for months, sure, but he'd be back at some point, and she could see him then. OP can't be there to see the birth of his first child twice. My girlfriend is a chess master, which basically means she's really fucking good at chess. My brother recently got into it and seems to believe that he is the smartest fucking person alive for understanding how the game works, as only smart people can truly understand the art of chess, his exact words. My girlfriend and I went to my brother's house to pick up some things. I'm under the impression that my brother believes my girlfriend to be a colossal chess player. When he learned that my girlfriend played chess, he challenged her, remarking it would be nice to teach a pretty girl about the art of chess, and she could learn a few things from him. My girlfriend was more amused than offended and took his offer. The game was over in literal seconds. I don't really understand how chess works, but I do know that he was checkmated in 9 moves. I found this all kinda funny, the change in his demeanor from overconfident to defeated, so I laughed. It was even funnier when he accused my girlfriend of cheating. How do you cheat in chess? And said that she must have been lying, etc. So, a few more laughs left my mouth. My girlfriend gave me a look, so I stopped laughing, but he kicked us out anyway. My sister-in-law is mad at me for laughing and at my girlfriend for not being more gentle in her win, claiming that she was purposefully showing off her skill. As a 16-year-old girl, 22 years ago, I landed the perfect job for a girl who grew up with computer games. I worked in a game shop. As was often the case, we had a PS1 running demos or trailers on the TV in the shop. If people asked, we would pop a game in and let them play. Usually kids would drop by and ask whatever new fighting game came out to play it. My boss was chill, would usually give them the chance. After closing, my boss and I would usually game together, quite often fighters. I have a competitive streak, so was determined to become good at these games. One day 2 kids came in, couple of years younger than me. They were loudly complaining that this place was no place for a girl. I've had to deal with nonsense like that my entire life, and my boss knew this. He saw the look in my eye and asked the kids if they wanted to try the latest whatever fighter was popular. He did say they could play until closing if they could beat the girl. They eagerly accepted. It didn't end well. Even after applying as many disadvantages on myself, they still lost. After about 45-60 minutes of this, they conceded and meekly apologized for doubting a girl can play just as well. A week later they came back with friends to show me off. Not the idiot in your GF deserves a high five for what she did. That's adorable. I love how gracious they were in defeat. Pretty amazing that a couple of 14-year-olds can learn the error of their ways and act gracious in this story, and yet a grown-ass married man in the original post throws tantrums.